The Galactic Academy's training grounds had never been quieter. Dean Varric stood at the edge of the combat arena, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting the harsh artificial sunlight into 1,000 fractured rainbows. Before him, arranged in perfect formation, stood 12 predator cubs from 6 different species, each one a member of a race that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia before the Concordat had civilized them. Varshaki warbreed, Kelthron hunters, Dravic berserkers. And at the front, standing with an unnervingly perfect posture, was Kiro, a young Valreth, his obsidian scales gleaming, his triple-jointed limbs locked in attention. The Valreth were perhaps the most feared of all the predator species, their ancestors having consumed entire colony worlds before the Concordat had intervened. Remarkable, Varric breathed, his translator converting his bioelectric pulses into standard galactic common. He had been dean of this institution for 70 cycles, and never not once had he seen predator cubs demonstrate such discipline, such control, such restraint. The final examination had been designed to be impossible. Every year, the Academy tested its most dangerous students with the Gauntlet, a simulation so brutal that even herbivore species often required psychological treatment afterward. The predators, with their killer instincts barely contained by socialization protocols, typically descended into their base natures within minutes, snarling, tearing at holographic enemies with abandon, fighting each other for dominance. But not this cohort. Not these 12. They had moved through the gauntlet like water through stone, smooth, inexorable, perfectly synchronized. When the simulation threw overwhelming numbers at them, they had formed defensive positions that would have made a Concordat military strategist weep with envy. When it tested their individual resolve with scenarios designed to trigger predatory rage, they had maintained control with a serenity that seemed almost impossible. The completion time, Varric said, pulling up the holographic display, is the fastest in Academy history. The efficiency rating is, this can't be right. He manipulated the data stream, checking for errors. 98.7%. That's higher than some Concordat peacekeeper units. The cubs remained motionless. Not a twitch. Not a growl. Their eyes, those dangerous, predatory eyes that had tracked prey across 100 death worlds, remained fixed forward with laser focus. Varric's primary sensory stalks quivered with confusion. These cubs had arrived at the Academy 8 months ago, feral and barely socialized. The Varshaki twins had attacked a professor on the first day. Kiro himself had bitten through a restraint harness designed to hold creatures twice his size. The Dravic, Shara, had nearly triggered a lockdown when she'd tried to hunt the maintenance drones for sport. And now they stood like decorated soldiers. I must ask, Varric said, approaching the formation slowly. Who trained you? Your assigned instructor, Professor Milanix, reported that you were difficult students, resistant to conventional methods, yet clearly, someone has reached you. Someone has taught you not just to fight, but to fight together, to think, to be more than your instincts. For the first time, movement rippled through the formation. It was subtle, so subtle that a less experienced observer might have missed it. But Varric had spent his life studying behavior, and he saw it clearly. The cubs' eyes moved, not their heads. Their predator instincts wouldn't allow such an obvious display. But their eyes, those vertical slitted, horizontally slitted, compound, and crystalline eyes, all shifted in perfect unison. They looked to the right, toward the observation deck that overlooked the training grounds. Varric followed their gaze. The observation deck was supposed to be empty during examinations. But there, sitting cross-legged on the railing in flagrant violation of at least 15 safety protocols, was a human. The human appeared young by their species standards, wearing the plain gray coveralls of Academy maintenance staff. A name patch identified them simply as Reeves. They had a cup of something steaming in their hands, and were watching the proceedings with mild interest, as if overseeing the impossible training of Galaxy-class predators was just another ordinary day. Varric felt his bioluminescent patterns pulse with confusion. Humans were, well, they were an oddity. A Deathworld species that had somehow stumbled into space travel without destroying themselves first. The Concordat had been monitoring them carefully, uncertain whether they were predators, prey, or something altogether more disturbing. They were weak by galactic standards, no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced senses. Yet they had somehow survived on a planet that seemed actively designed to kill them. "You," Varric called up to the observation deck, his translator crackling slightly with his agitation. "Maintenance worker Reeves, did you train these cubs?" The human took a slow sip from their cup. Steam curled up around their face. "Train's a strong word, Dean. Then what word would you use?" "Talk to them, mostly." Reeves set down the cup and hopped off the railing, landing with a soft thud on the deck. "They're not that different from dogs. Really. Smart dogs. Scary dogs. Dogs that could definitely eat you, but dogs." Varric's sensory stalks twitched with indignation. "These are apex predators from 6 different species. They are not dogs. They are barely civilized killers, whose ancestors survived," Reeves interrupted, walking toward the stairs that led down to the arena. "Same as mine. Same as everyone's. If you go back far enough." The human descended the stairs with an easy confidence that made Varric deeply uncomfortable. There was no fear in their movements. No hesitation as they approached the formation of predator cubs, species that could tear through reinforced steel with their claws, species that had evolved to kill. Reeves walked directly up to Kiro. The young Valreth was nearly twice the human's size, with jaws that could crush bone and reflexes faster than most species could perceive. "Good job today," Reeves said simply, and reached out to pat Kiro's shoulder. The entire faculty observation room, which Varric now realized was not empty at all, collectively held their breath. "You didn't touch a Valreth." Not without sedatives and restraints. Their prey drive was too strong, their killer instinct too deeply ingrained. But Kiro didn't attack. His eyes, those terrible predatory eyes, softened, just slightly. His scales rippled with what the human behavioral database suggested might be. "Pleasure? You taught them this," Varric said, his voice barely above a whisper. 8 months ago, these cubs were nearly expelled. And now they're soldiers," Reeves said, moving down the line, offering quiet words and gentle touches to each cub. The Varshaki twins leaned into their touch. Shara, the Dravik who had tried to hunt maintenance drones, made a sound that was almost a purr. "Or they will be, anyway. How? Our best socialization experts, our most advanced training protocols, centuries of Concordat wisdom, none of it worked." "What did you do that we couldn't?" Reeves turned to face the dean, and for the first time, Varric saw something in those strange, forward-facing predator eyes, something ancient, something that reminded him, uncomfortably, that humans came from a world where everything was trying to kill everything else, where they had to be prey and predator simultaneously just to survive. "You tried to make them less than what they are," Reeves said quietly. "I showed them how to be more. They're predators. That's not a bug, it's a feature. You don't train that out. You channel it. You give it purpose. You give it honor. But the aggression, the violence, is still there," Reeves confirmed. "But now it's pointed in the right direction. You want to know what I did? I told them stories. Human stories. About warriors who protected instead of conquered. About strength used for defense instead of domination. About predators who chose to be guardians." Varric's bioluminescence flickered through several colors associated with cognitive dissonance. "Stories? You trained the most dangerous cubs in Academy history with stories and sparring," Reeves added with a slight smile. "Lots of sparring. They needed to understand that fighting doesn't have to mean killing. That strength doesn't have to mean cruelty. That being a predator doesn't mean being a monster." Kiro stepped forward, breaking formation for the first time. "Reeves taught us what we are," he said, his voice carrying the multi-tonal harmonics of his species. "Not what we're supposed to be. Not what you wanted us to be. What we actually are. Hunters. Warriors, protectors. We choose the last one, added Shara, her Dravic accent thick but clear. Because of the human. Varric looked between the human and the cubs, understanding slowly crystallizing in his complex neural network. The Concordat had spent centuries trying to suppress the predatory instincts of these species, to civilize them through fear and restraint. But this human, this weak, armorless creature from a backwater death world had done something entirely different. They had embraced what these cubs were and shown them what they could become. The Concordat Council will want a full report on your methods, Varric said finally. Reeves shrugged. Tell them whatever you want. But Dean? Maybe consider that humans have been dealing with our own predatory instincts for a very long time. We've made a lot of mistakes, but we've learned a few things too. As Reeves walked away, coffee cup in hand, and absolutely zero concern for the breach of protocol they'd just committed, Kiro and the other cubs watched them go. Not with the eyes of predators watching prey, with the eyes of students watching their teacher, and Varric realized, with a chill that ran through his entire crystalline structure, that humanity might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy after all. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest or the most aggressive, but because they understood violence intimately, had been shaped by it, nearly destroyed by it, and had somehow learned to transcend it without ever denying what they were. That was a lesson the galaxy had never learned. But perhaps, with teachers like Reeves, it finally could.